Hi everyone, it's Scoot here. In today's video I want to deal with a topic that's come up on my social media recently. It's this whole issue of feeling alone and how to deal with this sense of feeling loneliness. You know, at some point as a human being, likely you have felt the feeling of loneliness. I used to feel lonely a lot as a kid. I was a black, African, Japanese kid that, you know, didn't quite fit in and was a spiritual kid, and that made me weird, and I was kind of outcast, and I was a little nerdy, and I was really into spirituality, and it was just weird. So I grew up feeling a tremendous amount of loneliness growing up. So I don't know what it's been for you. Maybe you've had this feeling that no one really understands what you're going through. Maybe you have this feeling that you're the only person dealing with what you're going through right now, that no one else really understands. The reality is we live in a great universe, and life is a process, and every single aspect of life is totally interconnected. And right now, my friend, even in your aloneness, even in your loneliness, that there is someone who's also feeling the same way. In a world of 7 billion people on this planet Earth as a human family, there is someone somewhere on this planet that is feeling exactly how you feel. There is someone on this planet that is going through exactly what you've gone through. And if they're not going through exactly what you've gone through, likely that someone in the history of humanity has gone through what you have gone through. They've been persecuted, they've been betrayed, heartbroken, hated, you know, outcast by parents, abandoned, whatever it is, bankrupted, failed over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, made mistakes. As a human experience, we come here to learn, and it's not easy. So no matter what you're going through, I want to acknowledge you, but I also want to remind you of who you are, and to know that you are not alone, that we are a part of a great process of life, a great process that this universe is living and breathing as a force of nature itself. There is a difference between being alone. To be alone is where you are centered in yourself, where you are actually so in love with yourself, so connected to yourself that you are not afraid to be alone and by yourself. And as a result, you're connected to the totality of all humanity, all existence, all of nature, knowing that really there is only one of you here. But when we start going into a sense of loneliness and retreat, often what happens is we become so fixated on ourselves, we become so obsessed with ourselves, our own ego, we become insular, and as a result we disconnect from each other, we disconnect from nature, we disconnect from the source of what we are, and we often start so deeply identifying ourselves with this name, this form, with our thoughts, with our pain, with our problems, with our issues, with our stories, with our limitations, that we forget the true grandeur of our being. We forget who we really are, and at the depth of who we really are, and who I really am and who you really are, at that deeper depth, which we've lost touch with, we are actually one. At that deepest depth, my friend, you and I and all realms of existence are one. There is no separation. And when we forget that, that can create a tremendous sense of loneliness in that apparent disconnection. Even though we can never really be disconnected, it can seem like we're disconnected. We can feel disconnected, which creates the sense of loneliness in the moment. But it's really an illusion. It's an illusory perception of who we are. When we know who we are, which is divine, when you know who you are, which is whole and complete, when we know who you really are, that there is nature that is living us. The trees throw off oxygen, we breathe this in, we breathe out carbon dioxide, the trees take that in. That's a process of oneness. You know, the sunlight shines, which births nature and flowers and food, and we eat the food, and then the food becomes a part of us. And where is the separation between the food and literally this body is part of that food? And it's a whole process that literally every single aspect of humanity is interdependent. We do not live in this sense of isolation, but it's often the ego, which is a process, the ego, which is the process where you and I, where we identify with ourselves, which creates a certain contraction, and that identification we hold so tightly onto as this is who I am. And as a result, the ego's job is to create this illusion of separation, this illusion that I'm over here and you're over here and we are completely separate beings. But the truth is, and that's the job of the ego, and that separation, which is a disconnection from ourselves, which disconnects me from you and all of humanity and all of the 7 billion brothers and sisters on this planet, that disconnection creates tremendous loneliness. Is the disconnection from self. And so often, so much of our culture with social media and channels and videos and so much digitalization of our culture with technology, we become distracted, and so many different sources that are vying for your attention. And so what we have to do if we are to reconnect with ourselves, if we are to center ourselves in ourselves, is we must begin to guard our attention. Because if it's not Facebook, it's Twitter. If it's not Twitter, it's Snapchat. If it's Snapchat, it's this chat, it's that chat, it's this book. There's so many different sources that are vying for your attention. And if you're not careful, before you know it, all of your attention goes out here and not in here. So to truly reconnect with your power, to truly reconnect with that sense of remembering who you are, you must recapture your attention. Wake up to the reality and listen and feel and go inside and listen and feel the power of your being. As you go inside, you will feel the source of your being. As you go inside and quieten the mind and not buy into the chatter of the mind, not buy into the stories and the ideas and the programming and the separation. But as you go inside and you quieten the mind, you will feel that there is a source of life, a source of reality, that you and I, my friends, really are not separate from this grand process of life, that we are not separate. The ego wants to be separate, that we are not separate from nature. We've forgotten that in reality we are part of nature. And in that forgetting that we are part of nature, we think that that it's just us against the wall. We often think that we have to do it all ourselves. You know, that sense that, oh my God, it's just me and I have to do it all myself. But the reality is you don't have to do it all yourself. If you look at nature, nature is just cool. Nature just relaxes. Nature is just being lived by life. The intelligence that brought you and I into existence. Nature doesn't stress. Nature doesn't fret. How am I going to get ripe? The mango doesn't say, how am I going to get ripe? Or the apple doesn't say, how am I going to get from the tree to Ralph's? This is just functioning, the intelligence of life functioning. Nature. But as egos, as separate selves, many times we have distress and this illusion from that illusory perception of what we are, that we have to do it, and oh my God, and that creates stress, that creates anxiety, that creates heartache, that creates frustration when we are thinking that we are the one that we have to do our lives and it's just us, and then we lose touch with the flow, we lose touch with the grace, we lose touch with the beauty and the totality of life moving through you. So my friends, remember who you are. Take time out to unplug from constant activity, constant media stimulation, and go inside and feel what you are and feel the intelligence of your soul and your spirit. I would also invite you to remember that your feelings of feeling loneliness are not fact, They're not necessarily reality. It's a feeling, and it's a signal, and feelings are a signal. Feelings aren't good or bad. They're just a signal that a part of you needs attention. Maybe there's something you need to do differently in your life. Maybe you need to reach out and spend more time with friends. Maybe you need to unplug and spend more time with yourself. So I'd invite you to really listen to the loneliness not as something bad, but simply as a signal of what is it that this loneliness is telling you? What is it that this loneliness is pointing you to? And what changes can you make in your life as a result of listening to the gift of that loneliness? Then I'd also invite you, rather than many times when I was in a state of feeling tremendously lonely, I'd be waiting for my friends to show up on my doorstep. I'd be waiting for my friends to love me. And I think we're in that moment of loneliness, even though it's hard, we're often so fixated on ourselves, turned inwards on ourselves, obsessed with ourselves. Being obsessed with yourself is really suffering. That I think even in that state, if you're willing to go, okay, even though I'm feeling lonely, I may be waiting for someone out there, that's the moment to actually reach out to community, reach out beyond yourself, not indulge your sense of let's say, self-obsession, not indulge your loneliness, but actually to reach out and make yourself available to love. The ego often doesn't want to make itself fully available to love, because sometimes being in a state of loneliness is a fault, can be a way of feeling separate, even a false way of feeling special, which keeps others at bay. So in that moment of loneliness, one thing you can do is reach out, request help, ask for help, which can be the most vulnerable thing to do in that moment. The other thing I'll say is, in that moment, you can focus on yourself and your loneliness and indulge that. But I say one of the things that you can do in that moment is actually be of service. Be of service when you take the focus off of yourself and say, okay, I may not be feeling amazing right now. I might be feeling a little lonely right now. But how can I give? How can I serve? How can I open my heart beyond my self-focus and give love? And when you give love, you actually open yourself to that dimension of yourself, which is love itself. That love was always there inside of you, but when you're fixated on yourself, you just weren't necessarily in touch with it. But when you serve, to serve requires that you open. And when you serve, you start opening that channel of love and you start giving. And then you also open yourself to receiving at the level that which you loved. My friends, you are a part of nature. You are not alone. There is a great force of life. There is a great force of nature that in each and every moment, in each and every breath is living you. In each and every breath is proof that the universe, that life loves you so profoundly in this moment. No matter what you're going through, I want you to feel the living, breathing miracle that you are, and celebrate and love yourself. If you enjoyed this video blog, I invite you to share it with your friends and your family. It's been great connecting with you. Love now.